Hey, Shirako. Ready to complete the Zelda pack?
Huh? Oh. Hey, Greg. Yeah, whatever you say, man.
You seem a little distracted. Everything okay?
Yeah, everything's fine. Do you see it?
See what?
There's a guy who's been sitting out there all day staring at me. You see it, right?
Now, dude, I don't see anything.
Hey, I found this bottle randomly in the back. What's with all the fishing poles?
Yes! Majora's Mask 3D, the second one. Well, it's pretty much the same.
Hey everyone, and welcome back to another episode of The Completionist. Almost exactly a year ago, we made the promise to revisit Majora's Mask 3D for the Nintendo 3DS if it ever came to existence.
And somehow we predicted it. Did we predict it would be 1 year later? No, but it's pretty cool that we were pretty close.
So, with that said, this is more of a revisiting review with updates as opposed to a full-fledged completionist review. We're going to focus on the changes, the good, the bad, and if we need to re-rate the game based on said changes. The key difference is that we will not be doing an in-depth story review of Majora's Mask, aside from a brief summary. So today, as you're all opening up your brand new copies of Majora's Mask 3D, some of you with your new 3DS XLs, take the time to just relax and breathe in as you're about to once again visit Clocktown and Termina. I remember my brother and I waited in line at EB Games to get our golden glitter copy of Majora's Mask, and we promptly went home and played it non-stop.
For a full breakdown analysis of the plot of the game, be sure to check out our first review, but the basic summary of the plot is that the Skull Kid from The Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time has stolen the mask called Majora's Mask from a mask salesman, and the mask is filled with evil power. The evil power makes the moon fall towards the planet over the course of 3 days, so our goal is to stop Skull Kid and Majora's Mask from ending the world during the Mask Festival. Again, check out our video from last year for a full review.
But it's important to understand what Majora's Mask's atmosphere and storytelling shows us about our character. Link just came off from fighting Ganondorf and saving the future of Hyrule. But in this world, Termina, a young boy who isn't chosen by fate or gods or a prophecy for this particular story, embarks on an incredible, unrealistic quest for a child. He's forced to deal with death, loss, sadness, grief, and more importantly, all of these problems aren't his own, but that of the people he sees around him that are suffering, which makes the side quests, in my opinion, the most important part of this game.
I would like to add that there are a lot of professional reviews out there that reference this game in comparison to Bill Murray's Groundhog Day, and I refuse to add to that. Well, I suppose I shouldn't have said anything. Dang script, telling me what to say.
For the sake of this video, yes, I fully completed this game again, so I've explored every nook and cranny that I could. There's a fair amount of differences between the original and the remake, and we're going to be using the Ocarina of Time 3D port as our stepping stone between them. So here are all the differences that we noticed.
Number 1, graphic overhaul.
The graphical overhaul of Majora's Mask 3D is wonderful. Being co-developed by Grezzo, Nintendo was able to use the engine that was used previously on Ocarina of Time 3D, and everything looks awesome.
Number 2, use of the Circle Pad Pro or Circle Pad on the new 3DS XL.
Starting up, the game asks if you're using the Circle Pad Pro. If you got a new 3DS or a Circle Pad Pro, you'll appreciate the ability to control the camera around completely, which is great because a common problem in the 3D Zeldas on N64 has been the camera. Luckily, if you've got the old 3DS, which is what we use to record, the game still handles great, although just in general, it feels like it's meant to be played on a bigger screen.
Number 3, updated character models and atmospheric models.
Link's model looks sharp, but it's kind of disappointing that not everyone got this full rework. It's quite obvious which character models got up-resed and which ones didn't. I love the update for the moon model. I also love that the moon model from Hyrule Warriors, when using the hookshot special, looks exactly like this one.
Number 4, dungeon visual overhauls with lighting effects drastically improved.
Following the trend of Ocarina of Time 3D, all of the dungeons have been tweaked visually, and it's definitely for the better. Some rooms that were once really dark now have some more lighting effects and a lot more detail. The lighting engine in general is miles and miles ahead from the original. It plays to Majora's strengths because one of the reasons the game was such a cult hit was how the visuals and color palettes themselves helped tell the story. It's more apparent now than ever that there's a stark contrast between bright, vibrant, and playful colors and dark themes and depressing stories.
Number 5, the clock layout.
The clock overlay has gotten a very large restructure. I admit, I do miss the large arcing clock that we all know and love from the original, but the new timeline version is better designed for this particular iteration.
Number 6, sound quality.
The sound quality of the game has gotten a pretty nice upgrade. The songs retain everything that made them so powerful in the original version, but with higher quality instrumentation to modernize it a bit.
Number 7, the 3D is actually good.
I think I said this in our Link Between Worlds review, but I genuinely love the 3D effect, and that's saying a lot because I almost exclusively play my 3DS with the 3D turned off. I'm not the biggest fan when it comes to 3D, but I had it on for a lot of my playthrough, and I don't regret it. I played the demo of Majora's Mask on the new 3DS XL with the 3D on, and it definitely enhances the entire experience.
Number 8, the atmosphere has never been more real.
In the last review we did for Majora's Mask, we talked about how the atmosphere is unlike any other and that its story and presentation go hand in hand. With this 3D remake of the game, it reaffirms that even 15 years later, the game not only still has it, but will remain in history as one of the most important Zelda games, let alone video games, ever created.
If you're playing Majora's Mask for the first time, this is probably one of the best ways to experience it. Almost all of the problems that we had in the original have been fixed with such great care, letting veteran players enjoy the experience regardless, and making it easy for new players to dive in.
As Gerard just noted, several gameplay elements have been updated to make the game more accessible to first-time players, yet there are a few changes that we at TOVG do disagree with. Pros and cons to everything, right?
Number 1, saving has been fixed.
One of the more frustrating elements of the original game was the ability to only temporarily save in case you had to stop playing in the moment. Since this game required the expansion pack, many systems, especially those of you with the GameCube Collection Pack, suffered from crashes, which would often result in hours of replaying the game. This problem has been fixed, as you can now save whenever you'd like without having to use the Song of Time to restart the day, providing you're near one of the owl statues. I feel that veterans of the original may not like this change, but I definitely think it's for the better.
I'm personally on the side of being against the save at any time feature because I feel like it's almost unnecessary on the 3DS with the ability to shut the console and automatically freeze the game in place. This and the fact that I think it goes against the dire themes presented in the game make me lean away from this change.
Number 2, the order of rewards.
Now, we don't want to give away all the details in this video, but a large number of items, which include heart pieces, masks, songs, even stray fairies and temples, have been changed. For example, in the original, collecting all the fairies in the Woodfall Temple awarded you with the spin attack charge. However, in this version, you get the double magic meter first instead. A change like this is welcomed, as doing the Snowhead Temple with a small magic meter was always a pain. With that said, methods to obtain heart pieces and masks are almost the exact same, with changes like this one just being about order of retrieval. In the end, you get all the same items.
Number 3, the Bomber's Notebook.
Personally, the Bomber's Notebook was one of my favorite things from the original game. It was well laid out, organized, clean, and very detailed on how to be successful at certain tasks. While I do like the additions like alarm clocks and the details of each character in the notebook, it doesn't have a very good way of checking off all the things you've done. And granted, I completed this game without having the official guidebook. There are changes to the notebook. It's actually interesting because there's a few side quests in the game that are brand new and didn't exist before. For example, in the original, the Gorman brothers didn't really have a happy ending to earn their happy seals. But this time around, there's a new quest that will get you a bottle, tallying up to 7 bottles instead of 6. And when you've done everything you can in the game, your notebook gets a little seal of approval. But who knows, if we miss something, we'll do another update video.
Another update video later on? Come on, Gerard. You still owe everyone that update video on A Link Between Worlds for that never-ending cuckoo challenge.
One day, Greg. One day.
Nope. Number 4, more button controls and quick access.
One of my biggest problems with the original was the whole ordeal of pausing the game, going to the right menu screen, choosing the correct item. If the item was an arrow, pick one at a time and not 2 or 3 at a time. I spent a lot of time switching between items in different menus, but with Ocarina of Time and Majora's 3D, you're given extra buttons to use which minimizes the necessity to switch out items as frequently. With a 4-item setup, you'll be able to beat entire dungeons with only having to switch your items 2 or 3 times, which is pretty awesome.
Number 5, the controls.
I don't think they could have made the controls any better for this game. I have a confession to make. I usually suck real badly at 3D Zeldas, and this was the first time in years that I felt like I could tackle anything. Locking on in battle is way easier, and depending on if you like gyro controls, which personally I really dislike them and turn them off, shooting in first person is pretty smooth. They even added a little visual target circle for when you shoot the bubbles as the Deku Scrub. The controls are near perfect, with the exception of one thing they kind of messed up on, which leads me to...
Number 6, the controls, part 2, the Zora swimming.
Swimming as the Zora, I feel, was better in the 64 version. Now before all the stones come flying at me, hear me out. You're forced to use your magic meter now if you want to do any kind of speed swimming, which is good and bad. Good because you're protected and can kill anything that stands in your way, bad because you'll drain your magic meter almost instantly. I didn't do this often, but drinking the Romani milk for infinite magic definitely helped this problem a ton. With the speed the Zora will be going, you'll find that getting around is a lot harder to control this time around. There were way too many times where I found myself struggling to control the Zora, especially during the Beaver minigames. That minigame already sucked, but I think this may have been the most frustrating thing I had to deal with the entire time.
But that's actually funny you mentioned that because our next point is...
Number 7, temple optimization.
All the temples have been atmospherically improved, as we said before, but with those cosmetic changes and the incorporation of the bottom screen, beating the temples is much more enjoyable now as opposed to just being tolerable in the original. Don't worry though, they're still just as rewarding and challenging as before.
You're right. I actually found the Great Bay Temple, the one I previously dreaded the most and had the most issues with, fixed and fun. Everything was pretty straightforward, and I never really struggled to figure out where to go, and that was mostly because having a map on the second screen helps greatly. I was able to focus on where I had to go better, and the tediousness was instantly gone.
Number 8, the hidden songs.
Let's shift gears real quick and focus on the songs and their effects. The songs obviously haven't changed from the previous version, and making the Ocarina a quick item with a reference list as to what the songs do is great, again, back on the topic of optimization. But one of the biggest and most helpful changes come from the 2 hidden songs, the Song of Double Time and the Inverted Song of Time. The Song of Double Time used to fast forward you to either 6 p.m. nighttime or 6 a.m. daytime, which was fine, you just had to pay very close attention to your scheduling for certain events and side quests. This made events like the Anduin Cafe quest kind of an annoyance. However, in this version of the game, you can now skip to any hour you'd like, which overall will make the game so much easier for you, a change that I think is for the better.
On the other hand, the Inverted Song of Time, which is supposed to slow down the flow of time, doesn't slow down time nearly as much as it used to. Sure, it makes a pretty significant change in how time goes by. In the original, it felt slower. The important thing is, though, I never once felt stressed out about the whole process of time management, especially since I can save as much as I'd like. Remember, kids, you can never save enough.
Number 9, something completely new, the fishing.
Let's talk about fishing, because oh boy, the fishing is fun, and at the same time, it's upsetting. If you like the fishing mechanic from Ocarina, then you'll like it in this game. I'd actually argue that it's easier this time around. Between both areas of fishing, there are posters in which you can use to catch all different kinds of fish. These different fish are all caught based on what type of lure you're using and what kind of mask. For example, if you're trying to get the postal salmon, you'll need to be wearing the postman's hat in order to catch it. And all of these fish have spawn cycles. One fish may spawn only on the final day or at certain hours. It's pretty intense. I spent more time fishing in the entirety of my playthrough than the game itself, because the last few remaining fish you'll try and catch have a very, 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 very low spawn rate. It's the RNG game all over again. It's a huge time sink, a big pain in the ass, but it's fun.
Number 10, boss fights.
The last important change I think we should discuss here are boss fights. The boss fights have been optimized. Each boss features different ways of destroying them, which really lets you feel that there's no right or wrong way to take them down, with the exception of the Twin Mold boss. At first, this boss gave us some trouble because you actually acquire the Giant's Mask a bit differently in this dungeon, and when you finally use it, it's way different than in the original. In the first game, you got to use your sword and shield to your advantage, but here, you're much slower and you have to dodge as best you can, and in order to really get in there and take it down, you'll need to activate a quick time event. Again, the bosses have been cleaned up quite a bit.
The completion bonus of the Fierce Deity Mask returns as turning in all of your masks to the 4 kids rewards you with this mask that turns the game into easy mode. It's still very fun and fulfilling. You can only use this mask during boss fights still, so no running around and being Ultimate Adult Link destroying everything. But I would like to add that you can use the mask in the fishing holes, which means you may or may not need it to catch a particular fish. Completing the Bomber's Notebook will round out your entire playthrough of the game, and when you've completed it, you'll get a red seal to let you know you're done. But in the event that we did miss something, we'll probably make an update video about it.
Nope.
Majora's Mask 3D is the perfect way to revisit this now 15-year-old game, and I can honestly say with confidence that all the changes they made are mostly perfect. Every game has a few flaws here or there, but if you've never played Majora's Mask, it's time to play it. If you've played it and loved it, it's time to play it again. If you've played it and hated it, well, damn, I got nothing for you.
I'm so glad that it's back. Back in the day when Majora's Mask came out, it underperformed greatly, selling only around 1/3 the amount of copies in its first week in comparison to Ocarina of Time. So it's nice to see that its revival 15 years later is so greatly anticipated. It's well worth the hype.
So there are all the changes we found in Majora's Mask 3D. I can say, with Nostalgia Blinders fully equipped, that this 3D port is better than the original, fixing a lot of the problems that I had. The controls, the graphics, the music, everything, with the exception of the Zora swimming, has received a large improvement and only strengthens the classic.
I think it's safe to say that we're going to stick with our original rating of Complete It, with the rating only being updated to Complete It in 3D!
Complete it in 3D! And after you've figured out time, space, and the red and blue glasses that you won't need to play this game, be sure to subscribe. Also be sure to check out our review last week on Portal 2 in case you missed out. And if you want something new, check out our latest channel on the TOVG lineup with Super Scope Show and their news report on Twisted Metal. And of course, we've got our Spotify playlist over at ThatOneVideoGamer.com that is about HD remakes. Back to you, Jimmy and Jerd.
That's all the time we've got for today, guys, so please, as always, let us know what your thoughts are on today's episode somewhere on the internet. I know it wasn't a full-on completionist episode, but I think our original review still stands the test of time. Jimmy, thanks for coming back, man.
I mean, I literally work in the building. Thanks for having me, and be sure to check back next Tuesday for our completion bonus video on how to get all the masks in Majora's Mask 3D, and until then, here's me attempting to swim as a Zora to the Pirates of the Caribbean theme in reverse.